Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Donald Ngonyama. Our national chairperson will start the meeting soon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Afternoon, Donald. Are we ready to go?
Yes, we are, Mr. Chair. Just a second, I want to check if yes, we should be ready. Madam Registrar, am I correct that we are expecting to be joined by Mr. Kabasia?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, colleagues.
Shall we wait 2 minutes or?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we can allow 2 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Yes, is it electricity off? I thought it's load shedding.
Mr. Chairperson, I think we can start.
Thank you, Donald. Good afternoon, all child and youth care workers. And today is the second day of our International Day for celebrating child and youth care workers. And thank you for making the time to join in with us and being here. We appreciate your availability. And yesterday we had our team from KZN sharing with us their interventions there in KZN.
Sorry, Mr.
Yes.
Chair.
Yeah, Donald?
Yeah. May you show your camera, please?
Okay, sorry, I forgot to switch on. Yeah. Thank you, Donald. Yes, as I was saying, yesterday we had our team from KZN sharing with us about their interventions there during the flood, as well as during the looting during last year as well. And we were also being blessed with the presence of the acting Deputy Chief, Deputy Director General from Social Development, Mrs. Sekawana, and she also paid tribute to child and youth care workers and the resilient ways in which we are doing our work. And she also mentioned that child and youth care workers were there during previous crises, like the HIV crisis in the country, as well as during COVID-19, where we were doing excellent work. And she called it selfless servanthood. Big words for us as child and youth care workers going forward. And today, our session, we are privileged to have with us the Registrar for the South African Council of Social Service Professions, Ms. Langi Malamba, who will address us today. And with her, we also have a member of council. He is also the Chief Director for Social Development in the Gauteng province, Mr. Kabasia. And we would like to welcome them and thank them for being here and also to come and share with us about child and youth care work and celebrating this week. We would like you to post your questions there in the chat box going forward, so that at the end we will then be able to let the registrar respond. And some of the questions, if we can't respond to all of them, there would be a summary of it and we could come back to you later. So thank you very much. Let me hand over then to our guest speakers, Ms. Langi Malamba and Mr. Kabasia. Welcome. I'm handing over to you. I'm not sure who's going to speak first.
Thank you, sir, and good afternoon again. Let me just show my camera. I want to thank you for inviting me to this very important occasion. And I feel privileged that during this week we are able to jointly acknowledge and affirm the role that child and youth care workers are playing. And I want to, in sharing my appreciation for the work that this amazing cadre of people is playing in the lives of young children and youth in our communities, to unpack the word resilient, because I think for me it is important to bring it to life, to say, what does valuing a resilient profession mean? And for me, the first R just talks to restoring life, to rebuilding, to recognizing potential, because what child and youth care workers do for the children and the young people who are hopeless at some point talks to the issue of rebuilding and restoring. And that is a very powerful virtue that you want within your practitioners, to be able to restore hope and to be able to rebuild confidence. And that's something that child and youth care workers do. The E stands for enabling, or they are enablers and they are energizers. And as you all know, they always serve with a smile. So, when you look at child and youth care workers, they are able to make a breakthrough, with their smile and their energy, their infectious energy, and just the way they conduct themselves. They are able to get through any child who's got an emotional brick formed around them. And that is what makes them so unique. They are loving leaders. They are insightful caregivers, and as we continue with the word, they empathetic. They are able to put themselves in a child's shoe. And this they do every day in their service delivery, where they bring their own experiences to enrich the life of this child who's struggling with, the issues. And most of our child and youth care workers, as we all will appreciate, have been through some difficult situations, and they use that rich experience to help another young person understand and to come out of the situation and become a better person. And I found that most of the child and youth care workers are non-judgmental. So they, the N in resilient also just speaks to their non-judgmental attitude. They are able to come to the level of the child. They are able to come to the level of a young person who's troubled, who's having emotional turmoil, and assist them. The T stands for, they become temporary parents for our children. We know with the programs that they do, Safer Parks program and all of that they become pseudo parents for the kids. The children look up to them, so they transform their lives in a way, and that is what the resilient for me, talks to, because every child and youth care worker out there is a specialist of sorts, because they find a niche when they're working with children. They are able to connect with the situation and bring the best out of people who are feeling, I can't cope, especially young people. They have relationship problems, they've got rebelliousness, they've got lots of issues, peer pressure. And I find that a lot of the child and youth care workers are out there playing a very important role. And in that way, they put themselves last to accommodate those who are in need. And as we celebrate this day and this week, where we're looking at resilience, how do our child and youth care workers embody the resilience within the work that they do? And I think the small analogy that I used will help affirm my colleagues in the child and youth care work sector to be proud that they are doing exactly each and every letter as I've unpacked it. And just in closing, Chair, I want to just reiterate them: restoring, energetic, smiles, serving with pride, inspiring, loving, insightful, empathy, non-judgmental, temporary parents who are transforming the lives of young people and children in our community. So I want to thank you and say halala to all our child and youth care workers who continue, especially during this last 2 years when we had COVID coming in onto our shores, and recent, floods, and we've got fires, and there's always challenges on the ground. And we know that sometimes you feel unappreciated, but we recognize you. We can see that you made of sterner stuff. You're able to selflessly be there for other people, and that is what makes you unique. So every child and youth care worker out there, halala to you, and continue to do what you're doing selflessly, and continue to know that you have a role to play, despite the challenges, whether it's resources that are not enough for you to do everything for everyone. Just making a tiny bit does make a difference. And I think for us at Council, we are also aware of other issues which are impacting on your ability to stand proudly and say, I am a child and youth care workers because of some of the problems that we have with registration. And the commitment that we make through our boards is to come out to where people are, to assist you with completing the forms or understanding the POE that you must submit if you want to, move from an auxiliary level to a professional level. We want to be there to support you every step of the way, and we will liaise with employers to make sure that we can come and be of support and service to you, to ensure that everybody is registered in accordance with the regulations. And as you might be aware, we've started with our election program, because the current board, Child and Youth Care Work, and the board Social Work and Council is going, their end of service is end of June, or around the 26th of June. And therefore, a process has to be in place to make sure that a new council and its two boards can come in. And we are also working around establishing a third board for community development. But at this stage, we're focusing mainly on elections for child and youth care work and social workers, social auxiliary workers, to make sure that we can find people who will serve in the next structures to move the sector forward. So there are many issues which Council is aware of, and Council is committed together with its boards to resolve some of these issues which are impacting on your ability to continue doing your work. We know that some of you are experiencing hardships financially and are unable sometimes to even pay the subscription, the annual subscription at council. So we will be engaging with the relevant stakeholders to give support and ensure that, you know, if it's subsidies, they are paid on time so that the employer can also pay you your salary. And we're also going to mobilize to make sure that it is not stipends, but it is salaries, because you're doing hard-earned jobs and you have to be rewarded accordingly. So this debate is not going to end when the board's term of office ends in June. The next coming board has to take over the same advocacy issues and lobbying that the current board has been doing to make sure that we improve the workplace, we improve the staff establishment issues, we improve the recognition, we make sure that there's equal access to education, higher education institution. And I know that sometimes people are afraid to go on to learn in a formal setting, but rest assured that with the support from QCTO and Health and Welfare SETA, we're looking at ways, especially for the lower end groups, you know, your FETC or TVET level qualifications, NQF 4, 5, that it should be competency based, because we understand that some of our people do not want to study further because they are afraid, you know, they have this fear to go back to class, but it shouldn't be scary because it can be conducted, you know, your training can be conducted in vernacular to make sure that you can understand. And the exam also is competency based, which means you don't have to write, you can have a conversation and explain what is it that you do on a day-to-day basis, how are you impacting the children and the youth. So in that way, the training and the education can be brought to a level, because we're dealing with competency. It's not theory where you must go, then you sit for an exam, which can be very overwhelming. So we will continue to work alongside our SSP employers to make sure that we get to the root of the problems that is preventing our child and youth care workers to be registered on time. And we really want to clear the blockages that might be out there. And I'm pleased to announce that very soon we'll be unveiling our integrated computer information or IT system that will allow people to register online. So it will take away some of the bottlenecks that we've had in the past, where people are not able to get their certificate on time. They're not able to get their practice card on time. So we will deal with those issues. And at the right time, we will unveil it and we will have a trial. Everybody can go online, you know, and go on the system and register as a user, and then continue to apply for either a POE or to apply straight as a social auxiliary worker and be processed on the system. So Chairperson and members, thank you so much for listening. If there are any questions, I will be able to respond. Those that are difficult, you'll pardon me, but I'm sure we will find a way to address all of your concerns. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Registrar. Can I just check, is Mr. Kabasia available, or is he going to speak afterwards before we take in questions?
Chair, I will phone him. I've tried earlier before I spoke to call him, but he wasn't responding. So I'll just check if he's available now. But we've sent the link and everything in the morning. He should be able to come through.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Madam Registrar. You have touched on especially the word resilient, and thank you for giving that beautiful motivation to child and youth care workers who are our foot soldiers and doing excellent work and being resilient in creative ways. So members, we are all here together, child and youth care workers, and you have the opportunity to pose your questions. I will, if you can raise your hands, or if there's any questions in the chat box, I would ask Donald just to check it for us. And otherwise, we are ready then for you from your side. Is there anybody that would like to start and pose a question? Okay. Let me start in the meantime. Madam Registrar, maybe if you could indicate by when the new online system would perhaps be available, because we're all looking forward to this new efficient manner in which we could then finalize our registrations, because I think for many child and youth care workers, this is a burning issue. I don't see any other hands. Maybe you could start with that.
Thanks,
Thank
Chair.
you.
Yeah, we've been busy with training in the background because we want to be sure that when we go live, everybody understands how to interact with the system, and we're hoping that by this week we finished with everything internally, and we can then send out a notice to the sector by Friday as to whether on Monday we're going live. But it is definitely, the system is ready. We just wanted to touch base. We had hoped that by the 1st of May we would have unveiled it, but we wanted to make sure that everybody internally knows how to engage with the system. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Maybe there would be some follow-up questions, but I also see Mr. Donald Ngonyama. Can you continue, Donald, with your question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson, and we appreciate the time that we are having with the registrar. Thank you very much for your address and for the encouragement to the child and youth care workers. My question is, it's actually not a question. I would request that maybe the registrar speak a little bit on the election process, because there has been questions asked by members, wanting to know if there will be paper-based election processes as well, and how they could be able to find the bios of the members who are standing for election. And I am aware, Madam Registrar, that many people have found their way, but maybe just saying something around that, so to make it a little easier for people. Thank you.
Thank you. Fortunately, I have my Lungi. I think she's in the house, and I think she will assist also with some troubleshooting of questions. But basically, a week or two ago, we issued out a notice which was explaining that before you even start to vote, you need to read the board notice, because it was showing who is this person that you want to vote for, their bio and their picture, so that you can at least identify a name to a face. So that process is out. We issued the ballot paper and the board notice. Let me just see. I want to get my, yeah. So we had a blurb that was showing the elections 2022 polling day, that our final date is the 16th of May. And we forwarded, if you open the board notice, which was published in the Gazette, I can't remember the date, Lungs, but it was detailing step by step how one has to access, the information, the background information, and also how you vote for which category, and how to avoid spoiling your vote that you're casting, and also the names of the candidates with their short biography. So all the information is there. We will repeat a notice this week. We still have time. We will issue in this week at council just the link again to help people to access the info. They might have missed it, but everything is there. And in terms of the paper-based, whereas we are amenable to share, because it is still a part of our regulations to issue paper-based ballot sheets, we need to have proper addresses, or at least if it's an employer saying I've got 50 people in my employ, we can send a courier with all the numbered, because with the paper-based, we must serialize them. So everybody will have their number. They cannot, use and cancel and then use another number. So everybody will have their name allocated to a number, and then they complete the forms, bring it back. When they're ready for collection, the employer or the coordinator tells us, and then we arrange to fetch them. We're doing it in this way to avoid the huge costs and wastage we've had in the past, where we will send out the ballot sheets and then they come back undelivered. So we know that our postal service has collapsed. So it makes it very difficult. Hence, we urgently submitted the online voting request to the minister, and for it was granted. And that is what we prefer. But if somebody wants the hard copies, we need to engage with Lungi, give us the address where we can deliver, and the names of all the people and their registration numbers, so that we can have, each one of them allocated a number. In terms of the closing date for elections is the 16th of May, so it's important that people who have access to the link, do so as soon as possible, so that they don't forget or they don't wait for the last day and there's a glitch or something. So it's important to note that everybody must vote once for the right category, and the system is very user-friendly. So you go online, it will tell you can't move on to the next step unless the next page, until you've completed everything on page 1. If you forget your ID, it will pick up the error and it will not allow you to move on. So it's important that people do it in a timely fashion to avoid any disappointments. Chair, if you would allow me, I've seen some question. I think Lulamile is asking whether we can have offices in other regions, for example, in KZN and Eastern Cape. We would love to do that, but it is very costly to establish offices everywhere in the country. What we have even looked at is possibilities of having Friends of Council. We know there, most of our NGOs have got offices almost everywhere in all the provinces. And also our social development has got service points and so forth. So we will find ways to partner to bring services. Normally we do the outreach. We've been disturbed by COVID. We couldn't come out to provinces as we wanted. But when the time is right, we will come out to provinces and we will send out a notice saying this week we will be in KZN. And we will go through all the districts to make sure that people don't travel far to come to where we are. We will try and, divide the province according to the demarcations that are there to make it accessible. And we will stay at least a week in one province before we move to the next to address issues. But unfortunately, because of the labor and the capital costs of setting up offices everywhere, it will not be possible. Thanks, Chair. Are there any other questions?
Yes, Registrar, I've got here, says, the name says there, so if you could just pose your question, please unmute.
Good morning. I'm not sure if you're referring to me, Shazi Nokolo.
Oh, I couldn't see your whole name, sorry. Yeah,
yes.
No, fine, you may speak. Thank you.
All
thank
right,
you.
not a problem. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you so much having the council. This is an honor. I really loved the part on the ICT, but my concern was I posed the question in the chat. There was a challenge with some colleagues. They didn't receive ballot papers. So I don't know whether it's because people didn't register their emails or what happened, but there was this whole commotion that it was just a few of us, like in the organization that I'm in, it was just a few of us that received the ballot paper. So I just wanted to check how did that work? And that's my first question, the emailing of ballot papers. And then the second part is I heard you speaking about the ICT being in place as soon as possible. So I wanted to find out, what about those people that have already did the manual applications, like for moving from auxiliary child and youth care worker into professional level? What's going to happen to those people that have submitted directly to the council? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shazi. Shazi,
Thank you.
Okay, so one, I have Lungi in the house to assist also with, answering some of the questions. So we don't give electronic ballot sheets. We're giving a link, and you can click with your smartphone or with your email address, the link which takes you to a formal, voting a ballot paper sheet, and then you complete it. Once you're done, you submit, it goes back. So those who are struggling can respond to the email address that was shared so that we can resend the link to them. The link is also very friendly. You can forward it to WhatsApp groups and, share it with colleagues if you've got their email addresses. Indeed, if people are not on our mailing list, because sometimes they forget to update their cell phone or their email address, we might not be able to reach them. So I'm going to ask Lungs to just reiterate the process in terms of how people can access the link. And in terms of the other question, what was it? The emailing. Okay, the emailing, Lungi will address that. And in terms of the people who are already in the system or on the current database, we are busy behind the scenes uploading, making sure that if you have to go on and you register your username, you will also be able to access your information. So the part of bringing everybody that has previously been registered is taking a little longer because we need to upload all the information from the physical files onto the system, and the alignment is happening, behind the scenes. So currently with the new system, we're encouraging all new applicants to actually take advantage of the system, because then their folders will be physically on cloud and they don't have to complete any manual applications. And we will make sure, if you're still experiencing problems logging on or setting up your username and getting your unique reference and your application not going through, we will be having troubleshooting workshops to assist so that we can see what is the problem and how do you upload data or information, because we do need data to be able to access the link. So we need to look at ways in which we can assist you to get the best of the new system that we're going to be unveiling soon. Thanks, Chair. Lung, if we can allow Lungi just to talk to the emailing and accessing the link. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Lungi, we hand over to you.
Good afternoon, Chair. And to answer the question regarding the elections, the ballot papers were sent via the web link to all registered practitioners. That includes also the CYCs, only those with email addresses, or if you've changed your email address and you have not notified us, that could be one of the problems, that people didn't receive the web-based one. But if for whatever reason someone didn't get, they can send an email to elections@SACSSP.co.za, or the one that has received can share that link to a fellow colleague to register. And we also ask people to register on time, not to wait up until the last minute, or if they've got glitches with the web link, to contact elections@SACSSP, and we will assist. And we also want people to use the electronic version, not use the paper-based ones, because we're trying to also to move the sector to the fourth industrial revolution. We don't want people to always use paper-based, but if for whatever reason there's no network where the person is based, then they can request to us and we will dispatch it. But we will need the full details of the practitioner. That includes the registration number, so that when we send out that paper ballot paper, it is serialized, and also we can also decide as to how it will come back to us, whether council will pay part of the amount or the practitioner can send it to us. So as soon as possible, if one is experiencing problems between now up until the 6th, which is Friday, they must contact us so that we can assist in whatever way. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lungi. I see we've got three hands. There's Themba, Fiona, and Eddie. If you could pose your questions in that order, and then we will ask the registrar to respond. So Themba, you may go.
Good afternoon, colleagues, and thanks for the opportunity that you have provided us for. I would like to just to comment or give thanks to the council by providing us with an online system that we can use for us as children with care workers to cast our votes. It is a good initiative. And the other thing also, I have a question maybe just to ask the board, if maybe is it possible if we can work independently as children with care workers. I know at some point we are not allowed to practice also in the context of our or outside of our work environment. The reason why I'm saying so is because we as children care workers, we are working in the lab space of our beneficiaries, and some of the things we cannot provide external assistance in terms of looking at my neighbor struggling with the kids. You see, so those are some of the things that we normally do as children with care workers, and at some point it doesn't reflect on our profile. So I would like to ask if maybe when they sit in their panels, is it possible maybe if they can discuss or find a way in terms of giving us a credit in terms of working even out of the context of our work environment, so that we can build our own profile. Yeah. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you, Themba. Registrar, you've got that point. We're going to ask the other two also to pose their questions, Fiona, and then Eddie.
Hey, good afternoon. Sorry, you're going to bear with me. I have some comments and some questions just around the election process. I think one of the first things just to notice that there's been, for me, I think, and it's an overload of information. It's a long while where we knew the election process is coming up, and then all of a sudden there's all this information that's being thrown at us, and there's a lot of information. And all those notices require a lot of time to read through it, to understand the process. Good to say it's all there, go download it or print it and read. But it requires a lot of time for people to sit and read and understand. And what I do think strongly could have happened, council could have done a very simplified version of step 1 to for your service recipients to be able to have an easier election process. Again, if you just go into the link, when you get into the link, you're thinking, okay, I'm going into the link. I should find the bios or something easier for me to just look at the people and identify my but obviously it's not there to make it easier for your candidates to vote. So you got to go out of it and find the documents, print it, look at it, read it first, and then get into the system in order to do the election. So I just think, and for us on the ground who are trying to explain to others on the ground how the process works and what they're supposed to be doing, it creates a bit of complication for so I think, yes, it's too much of information overload, and it's not so preferably the bios could have been more accessible. And as this morning, we've got a separate copy of the bios that we can. My question specifically is, I see there's only one email address. The question around election process. There's just one email address, and maybe the registrar can explain who's managing that one email and what's the turnaround time to get to people who are requesting and asking permission. or the 3rd of May. You will extend that. There's not a pure deadline of 3rd, so we can tell people that you can still continue sending your queries. No, the board, on the council, we just clarity on it. It's supposed to select 6 names, but I don't know if I choose 4 or 3 names. My ballot paper still considered valid.
Fiona, you're breaking up. I'm not sure if Registrar can follow. Fiona, are you done? Right. Maybe we could look at in the chat box there. If Donald, would you like to respond to her question?
Fiona's question, I did not get it, and I'm not sure if the registrar got the first part.
Yeah, we lost her. Maybe we could ask her then just to type further.
Yes.
Can we give Donald? Can we give Eddie a chance to just pose, or you want to say something in between?
No. I wanted to request that maybe Fiona can write the question down for the registrar. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Thanks, Donald. Eddie, can you pose your question before we respond?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and for Ma'am Registrar, over the last while, I've just been noting on social media how people have been struggling to actually make contact with council via the telephone line. It has led to quite some frustration. And I'd like to know what the issue was there, and what the real problem is, and then also adding on to the 4IR. And I think I'm piggybacking on what Fiona is saying, in that yes, we need to go paperless. We need to get with the 4th industrial revolution. However, we still live in Africa, and again, the computerized system for application will require quite a bit of uploading, so that will require scanning and then uploading documents, and connected. That entire system is impacted by the quality of your connectivity. And just the struggle of trying to get hold with talking to a person to guide you through this is already a problem. So yeah, I'm feeling quite anxious and yeah, with trepidation about this new online system. Yeah, so that's just my question or comment there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like the registrar then to respond to these 3 questions. Madam Registrar.
Thanks, Chair. The question that Themba raised is really a matter for committees of the board, the respective committees. If someone, for example, wants to be recognized for the outside of your child and youth care work, you know, whether it's a study that you've acquired, a new qualification and so forth, you are allowed to submit them as part of your continuous professional development. So that will be part of your POE, you know, if you supplementing the information that is required for you to be recognized for a position or for progression from social auxiliary work to professional status. So if there is evidence and issues around credits, it will go through your ETP committees when they are doing, you know, assessments for your application. As an example, you want to go through the registration division. It will also reflect on your status report to say you've acquired this and this and that. child and youth care work related. We have non-social work degree purpose kind of qualification. So that is possible. And I assume, I'm speaking now on behalf of the board, and I'm speaking off the record, So the board will have to make that determination to say, yes, Temba, you've submitted this, and we feel we recognize and we can give endorsement to the additional package value that you would add to any employer. So maybe you are applying and they want to know whether the extra qualifications you have can add value. I'm sure at a particular point, and each case will be dealt with on its merit, but the board will have to engage on, the kind of issues that will be tabled by different practitioners before at administration level we can say A or nay. In terms of Fiona's concerns, the information overload, it's unfortunate, that at this stage you're getting so much information, and indeed it requires a different strategy. Maybe if there was time to start having dialogues, cycle dialogues, and we can have webinars where we're taking people through. But time has overtaken us because, these things are not straightforward. You submit to the department, you wait for the minister to promulgate first before you can start announcing anything. So the time lag between when we wanted to circulate information.
Camera, okay, sharp. I'm trying, yeah.
Before we can circulate information depends on what is out there, for us to start announcing. So it sort of affects, if you remember, we wanted to have elections by the 16th, I think that week of Easter. And we realized that until the official gazette by the minister, we cannot do anything. So we had to move again. We must factor in 30 days when we can go to the polling date. So we had to shift around the time. And as a result, everything has to come out now because we are in the clear. Unfortunately, it's not pictorial, so it's a lot of wordy, texty kind of thing. And it makes it very difficult for people sometimes to find, the right important things to start with first. And because of excitement also, we just want to get straight to voting, and you don't read, you must have step 1 first before you go to step 3. So I apologize for that. It's things beyond our control. But I'm sure that with the discussions that we're having, because we had wanted with Lungi to have ongoing stakeholder engagements, and that is where we will assist people, those who are struggling to understand. And if somebody still wants a physical ballot sheet, it needs to be done as a matter of urgency so that there's no delay between you receiving and sending back, So there has to be commitment on the side of the requester for the physical ballots, because we don't want to print and then it's wasteful expenditure if we're just printing and they're not going to be used. The issue with troubleshooting email, we have one email with 3 people having access to that email. Actually, in IT, we've got 2 people, and then there's the electoral officer, myself, and Lungi having access to the email. So as and when people are writing to say, I'm stuck here, I don't understand what, the email will pop in and we will all have instant access to it. And if it's something more technical, our IT guys will step in. But if it's information or resending a link, Lungi will be able to assist. And I'm just giving oversight to check that everything is going smooth as electoral officer. In terms of the question Ubud Edi has raised around people struggling to make contact, indeed, we've experienced an ongoing sort of problem with our phone lines and the transferring of calls and drop calls and we have upgraded the phones now, and everybody, IT is able to monitor who is dropping calls, who's not returning calls. The voice box that is not cleared when you phone and you want to leave a message, it says message full, and then you can't have any other avenue. So we're going to be monitoring, because as of the last week of April, we've started cleaning up and aligning all our HD phones, telephone handsets for everybody, and all of them are linked to IT. and we are able to see now the patterns, and hopefully the problem will go away. But we also going to be soon unveiling a call center. Once our internal processes have been finalized, it will also go live, so that when you call with queries, you're not only depending on the switchboard, because currently calls go through switchboard, except for a few of us who have got direct lines and people call in. You know, for example, every day I get about 30 calls on my handset. And if I'm not at my desk, sitting in the boardroom, attending a meeting, then all those calls would require somebody to now go back and call and say, I have this missed call, and so forth. But we're doing what we can to reach out and to make sure that queries are being resolved. And I know it's happening at not so fast pace that members of the sector would like, but I can assure you that we are aware of the challenges, and we having ongoing internal discussions to make sure that we serve, you know, our sector. And if there are problems, I always say you can escalate them to me. And I've had lots of people sending lists of colleagues who are struggling to get through, and I would say just put in their ID number and their names and where, you know, emails, even if it's a supervisor's email, so that we can assist them. It doesn't have to be everybody sending, you know, emails to everyone in council, but you can simply channel them through one person. If they come to me, I'll make sure that the registration manager gets them and distribute them equally to the colleagues in the registration division. If it's an IT or a finance related matter, I will also forward it to my colleagues in finance and check that it has been resolved. At least after 3 days, I will check if the matter has been resolved. So if people are struggling, please encourage them to write, collect all the queries, say they are in one child and youth care center, collect all the queries, put it in one email, forward it to me. It's easier that way than when you have people writing randomly and copying 15 people in council. It makes it difficult for me to monitor who is actually handling this case. But if they come in that fashion, we are able to allocate them and monitor. So and so has been given 5 cases. Have they been resolved? Or if it's similar issues, we will, you know, deploy one person to just deal with organization X and verify and do everything, attach, send back a list to the organizational head or, you know, whoever the coordinator is. So in that way, we mitigate this on back and forth and nobody's responding and that kind of situation. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Registrar. I just saw a question in the chat box from Lulamile that asked, is it possible that council can have offices in the Eastern Cape? And then I'm not sure, Fiona, that if she wanted to finish her questions, we could come back to her as well. Donald, is there anything that you would like to further enlighten on?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is a question that was sent to me now on my personal WhatsApp. A member asking, is there a possibility of council introducing a WhatsApp system so that people can send messages on WhatsApp and be responded to immediately? And if that happens, will anyone be allocated the responsibility and be able to respond timeously? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Donald. Madam Registrar, there's the 2 questions, the one on the office and then the WhatsApp group. Thank
you, Chair. The issue around the offices I've already answered earlier. I think when we started answering the questions, I answered Lulamile's inquiry. The matter around WhatsApp groups, you know, it's possible in Ngonyama. We have done it. Some of the colleagues in the plenary can attest to that, where, for example, they would post, they include me in the group, myself and Lungi, and sometimes we invite any other person that we feel can add value to the ongoing discussions on the WhatsApp group. So the coordinator will alert me when there are questions, and then I'll prepare a voice note response to those questions so that everybody's question is important. We will address all the questions. We've even introduced training on WhatsApp groups, and the coordinators or whoever the main group leaders are will go back and listen to the audios and then narrate the story back to their groups and share it with other groups as well. So we can do that. We can continue with that system because it is there. We've got different groups for social work, groups for child and youth care work, and we've taken all the coordinators of the various groups to form one coordinators group so that when there are issues happening, my office will forward them, bulletins, notice, the administrative notices and board notices, so that immediately they can dispatch it to their colleagues in their respective groups. So I can't say at this stage we will set up another WhatsApp group or have a staff member looking after that particular WhatsApp group and so forth, but we can certainly capitalize on the fact that we already have such structures, and it is benefiting members because when there are issues, they simply contact me or my PA and say there are these questions, and then because I'm not always sitting and watching what is happening on the groups, but when there are important things that they want the office to respond on, they alert me, and I respond either in text or do an audio clip, and then we circulate it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Registrar. I think we've got two more questions before we will close. Let me give Harold has got a question, and then there's Eddie. Let's start with you, Harold, and then Eddie can have his follow-up question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Madam Registrar. I just want to ask, has the field responded with training to allow child and youth care workers to build up their CPD points? Has there been a response from the field? I'm just curious to know, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Eddie, your question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a follow-on also, and a question on the WhatsApp group. Many call centers, before you get the call center, they've actually got a WhatsApp that you can engage, and there's a bot that responds in the WhatsApp, so it diverts you and answers questions for you. And it may be that the question Donald posed from someone was in relation to that, rather than WhatsApp groups with physical people responding. That would be quite labor intensive, whereas this bot system actually works quite well because it's a robotic or animated feedback that you get. And then there was a correspondence from council where our numbers of registered child and youth care workers at both levels was somewhere around 12,000. And then there was also an indication that about half of those people, almost 7,000 people, had not responded to the call for registration. So do we have any idea of what has happened with those people? Are they practicing without registration? And what is the consequence? What will then happen to this, or what is council's response with regard to the situation? Because it's then presuming that people have just not registered and will be are practicing without being registered and therefore in violation.
Thank you. We'll hand over to the registrar to respond then. Madam Registrar, you're still muted.
Thanks, Chair. I'm sorry for the delay in communication. Regarding the bot system, that little robot that talks to you on WhatsApp, we've actually discussed it with our systems developer. So once everything has been captured, everything is now aligned on our new system, we will be able to have that. So automatically it will, because the system is highly interactive and minimizes a lot of human, errors and so on. So we will be able to build that into it. Yeah, they've reassured us that at the end, once everything is smooth running, then they will be able to build it in, because it must now be aligned to the education, training, professional conduct, and to the registration division. So they will look into it, and we will make sure that we remind them of that commitment to build us that functionality on our system. The question on the field, whether the field has responded to CPD training, I'm not sure I understood you, Ndate Tiensen, but it's, we've started to sensitize the sector, especially the SDPs, that we have accreditation. So anybody who wants to offer training on child and youth care related matters must be properly accredited. So that process is happening. People are starting to understand that they cannot train on material that is not approved, and they cannot give instruction unless they themselves are registered with council, and the board is very alert to having people continue to train without being properly accredited. So we will publish a list of all accredited service providers once the process is concluded. But there is excitement in the sector. We get inquiries from people who want to, go and do training, and they want to know where can they train and so forth. And yeah, I think it will increase, it will improve once we even have the system, because you'll be able to click and see which courses are available every month, and you can just click and see how many points it has, where in the province is this course offered, what does it cost you, and the free courses that are offered as well. And then you simply click, and once you do that, it links to, or it populates on your database profile that you've undertaken this course. It's a 3-day course, 1.4 points, and then immediately it updates ETD, it updates registration in terms of how many points you've accumulated for the year in line with the regulation. There was another question which I didn't quite hear, something about people who are practicing illegally, or can you just repeat that part with Eddie? The last part of your question I didn't get nicely.
Yes, Madam Registrar, there was a communication put out that somewhere around 7,000 child and youth care workers are facing possible deregistration.
Okay.
So will they be practicing illegally then, as such? And I think I'm being challenged, or I'm being faced with the same situation that Donald is. I think it's the people who's on YouTube who's sending messages, and they want to. I've been also asked about something similar about those. What about those working without registration due to breakdown in communication with SACSSP? So again, it speaks to what's the consequence for people who are in violation. And then there's also some about the challenge, and I don't know what the challenge is with registration for foreign workers. I would presume that the foreign workers are trained at level 4 or 5, or even at DUT.
Okay. So there's about 4 questions that you've posed now. The deregistration of CYCs. When we revised or amended the regulations in 2019, there was a proviso. You remember in 2014, people were given a fixed date to say, on this date, October 2020, whatever, if you have not done this in line with the granny clause, you will now be deregistered. But the board realized that 2014 came and 2017 came very fast, and people were still not aware that they needed to have done certain things before the expiry of, the regulation. So the amendment was to ensure that everybody, especially the auxiliary level applicants, when they are registered with a job appointment letter and job description, they have to, from the time they are registered, they must start to, together with the employer, look at what kind of training will they go to. And it is not just you must go to DUT or Western Cape and so forth. It can be any of your SDPs who are offering training level 5. We currently just recently approved the level 5. So it was level 4, level 5, and then you've got your advanced qualification at university. So from the time somebody gets registered with an appointment letter and a job description, they have to know that 4 years must not lapse before they have acquired some kind of formal qualification, whether at TVET level, NQF level 4 or 5, or at a higher education institution, NQF level 8, So when people do not read and understand that requirement, and 4 years has lapsed and they've not acquired, and they actually tell their employer, I don't want to study, I don't want to learn anything, I'm okay, then it only means that such people will be deregistered. One, they cannot continue to be employed, which means the employer has to enforce their HR policies to say, we have submitted to council your application with a letter and your job description, and you have actually told us you don't want to study, and we want to support you, but you are refusing. There are people who are refusing because of the fear, because of, that fear of the unknown. I haven't been in class, I'm old, I don't know if I can learn. So there has to be ways in which a discussion happened right at the beginning to say, when you register in this way, expectation is that within 4 years, you must acquire whether a diploma or an NC certificate and so forth, failure of which you would lose your job, and also you will not be registered. So therefore you can practice. So anybody who gets deregistered because they're not meeting the full criteria of the regulations will indeed be deregistered. And it is a scary thought to actually think about having such a huge number of people being deregistered, because we know the services are much, much needed on the ground. And therefore, there has to be ongoing, mobilization to see that that does not become a crisis. It is already a crisis because a lot of them have not done anything and the 4 years is gone. By 2023, which is next year, if somebody hasn't started registering somewhere and started taking up modules, they're going to be out of the system. And that is very unfortunate. So employer cannot allow people to be in their employ without being properly registered. They must be fit to practice, they must have a license, and the employer must do everything possible to support. And we've engaged with QCTO and the Health and Welfare Sector to say, for lower level qualification, there must be consideration for, allowing people to speak in vernac or to even undertake the training or have translations. And they must not be forced to write exams because it's competency. They must engage with people to demonstrate their understanding. So the system has to be supportive because we know our landscape, we know the people that we have in our employ. If we don't support them, they're going to be so terrified, they'd rather sit home and not be, registered, because they cannot think past going to sit in a class and fail, because that is what they think. You have to go and write an exam and you don't know how to communicate in English. You can speak, but maybe you can't write it. So there are all these dynamics which are making it very scary for people to comprehend why it's important to them to adhere to the regulations. The issue of foreign applications, we have an international qualifications policy which allows our colleagues from neighboring countries or even northern countries to come. They apply, they would also go through a POE system where they will be given assignments to do. There'll be a panel of assessors and moderators to go through their work. they may even be invited for an interview, because sometimes all that is written is not always what is, effect. So you need to validate and interview somebody, ask them questions, and you gain better understanding when there is that kind of engagement. So there is a foreign qualification, or we call it international qualifications policy, that guides how people can apply. But when they apply, they must start with SACSSP to validate their foreign qualification. And SACSSP will say, for example, if you're coming with a BTech from University X in Malawi, as an example, SACSSP will validate and equate it to our local BTech. If it's not on the same, and the exit level outcomes are not the same, and whatever system they're using to validate if there's qualification from that country is the same as our level 8 qualification, they will then give a certificate that says, yes, we've got a 4-year degree from this country, but it is at level 5. And in such instances, it requires support, because people get shocked and angry that why is council saying I must be ready? And it's not even us, it's the laws of the country, Even if you go overseas, they will want to validate your course. They'll take you through some prelim exams that you must write in English and this and that to validate that your degree is similar to their degree in terms of weight and all of that. So SACSSP is very important when it comes to foreign applications. They must start there applying to check validity, and the certificate will be issued that they must submit with their application to council, and then the processes will ensue. Education and Registration Division will sit together, the panel will be set up, and then they will write the exams, and as soon as they're done with the POEs, then they will be invited for an oral engagement with the members of the panel. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Registrar. Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I may, just the problem that the individual person is having is that they're from another African country and trained in the level 4, and I presume that there's a work permit because they are employed at a child and youth care centre in the Western Cape, and they are listening in. But the problem is when they try and make payment, the system is not recognizing their foreign ID. It's looking for a South African ID number, and apparently the issue has been raised with the registration department, but no joy for the past 2 years. And the person is listening, and I would suggest that they are listening, that they possibly liaise with you and get that matter sorted.
Okay. Yeah, I note that. But just to mention that, with the payment system that we have with Nedbank, you cannot put in any other reference except your registration number. If you put in IDs or name and so forth, the system will kick you out. So we have to find ways to support colleagues who are using passports and so forth. We have them in the system on the current database, and even on the new system that we've developed now, you would have a choice of clicking. If you're dual residency, you would then say I have an ID, and it will ask you to put in your ID, your 13-digit ID number. If you've got a passport as well, it will ask you to put it in. So all of that will be taken care of. However, currently, if somebody is experiencing problems with paying at Nedbank to complete their application process, they must please write to us so that we can assist with troubleshooting that problem. The other question that is asked around payment on the system, we've linked it with OZO, and as soon as you get onto the system, you are able to choose whether you're paying with Capitec, Standard Bank, and whatever banking institution you're with, and it will upload immediately onto the system, and it will calculate how much, the pro rata. It will tell you if you come now, you must pay 300 rands. Somebody comes in a week's time, it will be less. So it will calculate accurately what you must pay, and then once you're happy with what is reflected as your amount due, it will then take you to the payment gateway, and then you will choose your banking institutions and then do the necessary steps. And then it will automatically, then everything is uploaded an authentication will come to you to say, this is the reference number, your application is now successful if you've uploaded everything that is required. And with this new system, if you are working and you pause, maybe you forgot to bring in your certified copy, you can pause and close your application. When you come back, because you must first start with registering your username. So when you come back and after your username, you'll get your reference. So every time when you come back into the system, you use the same reference number. And if you forgot to attach something, you can go look for it. Tomorrow you come back, you continue from where you left. You don't start from step one. You simply go to the step. When you open, it says, welcome back. And then it tells you, do you want to continue from where you left? And then you click yes. Then you upload, and then you continue with your steps. So it is a very interactive and very user-friendly, system, which we believe will alleviate a lot of the delays that we've had. In terms of receipts, for those whom the department had to pay for, the receipts are issued back to the department. Remember, they deducting through PERSAL the annual subscriptions, and they send us a list and say, we're paying you 10,000 for this 50 people, and these are their names, and these are their IDs, email addresses, and cell phone numbers. So we will send electronic versions to the respective members and send the hard copies to the department. And I know that sometimes people complain that they've not received them, and now the department, the very same department that we have sent to, will demand that we want the receipt tomorrow, and there's panic, which creates pressure on the finance department, because now they must do double job. They've sent and they're busy sending the bulk receipts to respective provinces, and then individuals come and say, I want my receipt now. So it creates a problem. And we try to find a balance between those for whom department is paying and individual members, so that they also get priority, attention in terms of their receipts. So we will continue to, send out information so that everybody is aware of where we are at with processes, especially the new system, and also the issuing of receipts. If you still have not received it after we've sent it to the employer, we will allow that you send to us a request. There are those who have paid because they panic that the department is taking long. They pay, and then the department deducts from their salary, and then they become very angry and they want their money now. So unfortunately, we have to allow finance to finish its processes before we can reimburse. Sometimes if it's a huge amount, somebody makes an error, they want to pay 400 and then they pay 4,000, and we understand that money is money needed somewhere. A special request is made, and we do an internal submission to justify why this payment must be made out of cycle and why it must be paid now, so that even the auditors can see the trail when there's an inquiry why certain things are done outside of normal processes. I hope I've answered all the questions, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Madam Registrar, for elaborating on all these queries and the questions that were posed to you. Before we conclude, I've noticed Mr. Kabasia was connected. I just want to assess if he's still available on the group. Mr. Kabasia, if you are here, we would like to welcome you and give you a chance also to share your message of support. It seems he's no longer available with us. Am I correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it looks like he is gone.
Yeah. Because I've noticed earlier that he was connected. Well, on that note,
Mr. Chair, if I may, I've got another question from social media.
Okay, yes, you may pose the last question then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, Madam Registrar, it's just a follow-up to the possible deregistration. And thank you very much for clarifying and clearly explaining the granny clause and us coming to the end of that, and that being a reflection of what is happening. However, what social media and what the child and youth care workers are saying is that they are still receiving stipends, and some of them are unemployed as well. So therefore, at this point in time, and if we know if someone's earning a stipend, the registration fee is practically almost 10% of their salary, which is quite a lot of money for somebody who's supporting many others. So what are we envisaging that we will consider with regard to the situation we find ourselves in, that people who are supposed to be earning salaries are earning stipends? And again, for somebody who's unemployed and looking for a position and then facing having to pay a penalty for not registering. If we could just clarify that, please. Thank you.
Thank you. The issue around the unemployed and having to pay annual subscription. So there is provision made in the Act for people who are unemployed not to pay, but the timing of the request not to pay is important. So there's two ways of doing it. You can request before, let's say by November, but before the 1st of December, you make a request to the Office of the Registrar to be exempt from paying totally the fee. So you can ask if your total payment is 400, then you would pay 200. Or you can be totally exempt from paying. However, with the two options, your practice card will say registered but not allowed to practice. People always get offended, like, but I've registered, and so the Act is done to cushion council from, having people out there continue to practice on an exempt fee and not bothering to come back to pay once they get employment. So the exempt, registered but not allowed to practice, forces a person, one, they can continue to apply for jobs, and when they get a job, indicate to the employer, I requested this exemption because I could not afford, but as soon as I earn, if you find me suitable, as soon as I earn, within 30 months, we allow people to inform us that they've been successfully headhunted or recruited, and they will be earning. Then it gets fixed immediately. They will just have to do the top up in terms of the pro rata fee for the point where they become eligible to work. So when you have that, you can still apply for a job, and then you can even ask the employer to engage with the Office of the Registrar to confirm that actually this person is registered. The only challenge was the finances, but it cushions the applicant who is struggling financially and also protects, them from wanting to go and work illegally because they can't practice yet if they are exempted, but it will take away the pressure. So they will remain registered, and it will also not affect their status report. If you register in 2014 and 2015, 16, 17, you're struggling to get a job, you can ask for a total exemption. You pay only the small nominal fee to keep your registration as active as if you are paying the full fee. And as soon as you get money to pay, once you are employed, you pay only for that current year. You're not owing, you're not going to be told to pay like somebody who's being restored. You will pay only for your current annual fee due. So that is the one option available. The other part of your question with Eddie, when this kind of issues are raised, there is expectation on the board, on council, to do something about the crisis that we have with poor salaries and stipends, which devalues their profession, because then you've got people who are almost like volunteers. You're doing it from the goodness of your heart. Whether they give you money or they give you scones, it's okay. But in this case, we're talking about professionals, and we're saying we're professionalizing the sector. Therefore, there has to be proper remuneration. There has to be proper, perks and benefits that goes with a particular vacancy that goes out. And the responsibility is dual. Council has an advocacy role to play. It is not within the mandate of council because the mandate as prescribed is very clear: registration, professional conduct, and education, training and development. But council has an advocacy and lobbying responsibility to support and to inform the minister about issues that are affecting the practitioners within, the ambit of the board. So if we've got child and youth care workers and they are struggling and there are issues that prevent them from getting to another level, the board has to inform the minister and advise the minister as prescribed by the Act. So that is the advocacy and function that council and the boards can do to lobby and advocate. However, associations also have a responsibility. Forums, if you've got national forums where people have a cogent strategy and they know this is our business, we're going to be speaking on behalf of this sector and these are the issues that we're passionately going to be fighting for. And that is just, you're not all over the show, you're just focusing on issues. Then it becomes easy because when we advocate on this side as a statutory body, association will also put in its voice. It's actually the association's responsibility to mobilize and strengthen the sector in terms of awareness around issues and where issues can be tabled. And you've got your forums also adding their voice. And, there's lots of forums that I've seen pop up in the last 2 years, unemployed social workers or child and youth care work forum, this and that forum. So if we rally all these forums and we speak with one voice, we will be able to change the issues which are affecting our sector. They've been affecting our sector for many years. The issue around salaries and the recognition of the social service sector has been there for many years. Before we even had in Indaba in 2013, there has been discussions about the poor pittance that is given to social workers. And with child and youth care work, the same struggles that we had 30, 40 years ago are still the current struggles. And that does not mean we must not talk about them. We must not engage, relevant stakeholders, DPSA, DOL, and everybody else that has a role to play in understanding how our sector functions. People who are working in child care centers will work overnight. There has to be a different, policies and things to safeguard them and make sure that they can continue to work and also be able to earn a decent salary. So all these discussions have to be elevated. They have to be elevated. We must talk about them. We must continue to mobilize and not give up. And we need to unlock more opportunities for employment, because employment cannot just be within social development or at NACCW or at, Abram Creel or this child and youth care center. There has to be employment opportunities within different spheres of government, whether it's agriculture, whether it's farmlands or working for fire and so on. We need to have all our social service practitioners populating, or inhabiting those spaces, because they have a role to play. Child and youth care workers, social auxiliaries, social worker, ComDev practitioner, joining hands to come with integrated case management approaches to make sure that we strengthen the district development model. And I think, we need to talk about these things, because if we think, yeah, but now the NGOs are going to close, we have to make sure through our forums and association that these issues are elevated. The boards will support, but the associations and those, forums must take these issues forward, and we will give the backing as your statutory council. So I think the issue of stipends is not something we can resolve today, but certainly it has been elevated to the office of the acting DG. The minister is aware, and I'm sure colleagues from DPSA who've been joining our webinars last year are also aware of the issues that we've, continue to raise on behalf of our sector. The board over the last 5 years has just been working on this issue: staff establishment, recognition, appreciation for our child and youth care workers. So there's a lot that has been achieved, even if it's small, because you start the process, the next coming board will continue. It's like a relay. they will take over some of these issues and take them forward. And as we create more awareness, our principals in national government will also understand the issues better. And when they plan and when they budget, they will start to know that these people are not volunteers, they are professionals. They have a qualification, they're giving a decent service. Let's reward them properly. And let's make sure that as we're saying we're professionalizing, it must go with different levels so that they can also grow, in their professional career. People cannot reach a ceiling at NQF level 4. They have to be able to grow and become supervisors and directors and, senior managers and so forth, up to the levels that can be permitted at provincial level or even at district level. So we need to have more engagements around activating our sector and affirming ourselves so that people take us seriously. And we can only achieve so much when we are united in our thinking and in our action and in our approach. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Registrar. We have come to the end. Actually, it's 2 minutes past 2. We would like to welcome, we've got also in our midst, Mrs. Sharon Follentine. She's the chairperson of the Professional Board for Social Work. And I would like to ask her in closing just to share a message of support with us. Mrs. Follentine, if you would like to switch on your camera, and we would like to hear your voice as well. Thank you.
Whoopsie. Thank you very much, Chairperson. And it really is a pleasure for me. I joined late, for which I apologize, but it really is a great pleasure for me to read this message of support. I have a particularly soft spot for the child and youth care sector, and often just regret that we are not able to do more than we are currently doing. And I'm talking now from the point of view as a social worker. But let me read the message of support for International Week of Child and Youth Care Workers. During the first week of May, the global community will once again celebrate Child and Youth Care Workers Week. This year, the theme is building a resilient profession. The Professional Board of Social Work would like to extend its congratulations to its counterpart, the Professional Board of Child and Youth Care, on this occasion. We really do stand in awe of your relentless efforts to build a resilient profession, and we applaud your many accomplishments in this regard, even though you may not always recognize these accomplishments yourselves. We also extend our good wishes to all child and youth care workers wherever you may work, and thank all of you for the invaluable contribution you make to the lives of children. Within the South African context, the child and youth care profession has demonstrated its resilience in multiple ways. It is said that resilience involves being aware of situations, of your reactions to these situations, and the behavior of those around you, and then using appropriate strategies to cope with these situations. The child and youth care sector exemplifies this in the way it has and continues to tackle the multiple challenges that confront your profession. You come back stronger from setbacks. You seek and create opportunities for continued professional growth and recognition when others may have thrown in the towel. You somehow find the strength and the energy to continue advocating for your profession. When members of a profession are resilient, then they can transfer these skills and attributes to the children with whom they work. When children can count on the care, support, guidance, nurturing, and encouragement of child and